Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Album Homework Assignment. Thanks for joining us here on this Sunday morning. If you're here on the East Coast of the United States, maybe it's really early if you're on the West Coast, but if you are from the UK, as we've got two gentlemen here from the UK today, it's probably afternoon by your time, or maybe it's evening. Whenever you watch this, welcome. And today joining me are our two fantastic lads from Scotland. We've got Davy Gallagher from the Monsters Den and Stephen Reid from In the Prague Seat and the UK Connection. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, Peter, how are we doing?
Hello there. Stephen, a pleasure.
Absolutely, Davey.
This is actually the first time these two have been on the same show together, so kind of cool.
But not the first time we've been in the same room, as I discovered when Stephen said he was at Cats in Space, literally up the road from me. Stephen, I stay in Byers Road, so you were literally 2 minutes away from me there. So, yeah.
There you go.
It is a small world.
Yeah, I would think you guys have probably been to some of the same concerts.
Oh yeah. I've ticked a few off when Stephen's been going through the lists on those shows. And Stephen, I'm sorry, but that time I set your car on fire outside the Barrowlands. It will not happen again.
That's quite all right, because the insurance paid up and I got full whack for it, so I got a better car out of it. So you did me a favour.
Well, we won't be talking about burning cars tonight or any of that kind of stuff. So today is all about album homework assignments. So they've had their assignments. They've given them out. They've had them for a couple of weeks, and they're ready to talk about them today. So, Davey, what were you given by Stephen to listen to and digest here?
So I was given by Stephen a quite rare album that not many people will have heard of. It's called Misplaced Childhood by Marillion. What, Pete, what is it? This is quite an obscure piece. Stephen, what did you get?
Well, I got Misplaced Childhood by Marillion.
Oh. I didn't listen to be honest. I just Wikipedia'd it. I don't know about you.
Well, mine came with a hype sticker though, so I thought it was unique.
Don't start the hype sticker now. Oh no, it's on the back. It's on the back.
What's wrong? You need to take that one back.
I would expect nothing less from you two guys. So yeah.
Right.
Well done.
So yes. So I was given by Mr. Reid an album by someone that he's been mentioning a few times here and there. 350,000 at the last count. But Mr. Ginger Wildheart. So under the solo banner, when he had the band's nominal band, as we know, Ginger does his own thing. Silver Ginger 5, and the album is Black Leather Mojo. So I think that was his kind of first post Wildheart's. There you go. That's a nice cover. So is that. Look at him running his own Discogs here. Links to his eBay below, folks. So
there's more. There's always more.
Show off. We don't like that over here. So I'll go through. I'll just battle through. So it's produced by Tim Smith of the Cardiacs, which I thought was interesting. They're a definition of a cult band. Prog punk with, if Gentle Giant met the Buzzcocks, you'd end up with the Cardiacs. He died a couple of years ago, sadly, Tim Smith. As I understand, it took a while to be released. It was only available in Japan. Ginger Wildheart in Japan only. What the? Yeah. So this album is the most Ginger Wildheart album you've ever heard in your life. That's just to put it out there from the start. I'm not gonna save anything for the end on that. It is everything that I know that he likes, and I only really know the band stuff. I don't know all the side projects because I know he's got 300 of them. So this was when Stephen offered this to me. I said, "Brilliant! I've always wanted to dive in, especially since you've been talking about him." So it starts with Sonic Shake, which is just this cacophony of guitar to just straight away. There are lines in here that are misogynistic, but he's doing it in a very ironic way, so it doesn't come across as cruel or sexist. So he's got the party girl fucked so much she screwed herself to the floor. I mean,
all in a pop style, I may add.
Yeah, and it's catchy and it's upbeat. There's insane riffs going on in this, even for Ginger. There's even a wee Zappa reference. He literally in the Catholic Girl style goes, "She was down on her knees." It's exactly the same delivery as the Zappa track. One word chorus when they're just going shake, shake, perfect for festivals. So this came out in 2000 or 2001 when it was eventually released. And you think, why was this not at Tea in the Park, Glastonbury? This is the kind of things that would have students and nutcases and pill poppers absolutely gangbusters. Stephen, I'm looking at you, absolutely going gangbusters. Divine Imperfection, more classic riffs, a much more 2000s style arrangement, as you can imagine. We can't really hold it against it for sounding contemporary when it was in the 2000s. It's got a refrain with it's shaking all over. It sounds like Johnny Ted and the Pirates. It's really cool. So Ginger obviously is a massive fan of glam, as we know, and that 70s era and heavy rock. But here he's almost gone back as far as early 60s, early British rock and roll, British invasion kind of stuff, which is great to hear. The song itself's almost a bit Stonesy, but almost the way Primal Scream take it, I think, you know, that kind of more modern twist on the Stonesy sound. Not that we want to go too Scottish with the references, but Primal Scream, will throw them in here. And I'm wearing the Aztec Camera t-shirt tonight as well, so we're going a wee bit Scottish. So anyway, but maybe the verses sound a bit like just what I needed by the Cars. Very similar vocal delivery to that. I want you anyway, but maybe. It's a kind of sweet lyric for Ginger. You don't really associate him with I want you anyway, but maybe. He's quite melancholy in places in this, despite the fact that there's insane riffs surrounding it. He's showing a bit of heart, which you don't really associate with him quite a bit. Great time changes. One thing that really comes in on anyway, but maybe, and it's on quite a lot of this album, the drumming sounds like something from a thrash album from 1984. So although the riffs are from the 70s brought to the modern age, the drum sound is insane. It's pure thrash. It's nuts. It's bonkers. So we've got T-Rex, but then we've got early Metallica or something thrown into the mix on the drum sound. It's just this bizarre combination, which is fantastic. You can probably see where I'm going with this review. I've not been too down so far. Girls are better than boys. Again, I just mentioned T-Rex. He's doing his Mark Bolan. This is pure Mark Bolan here. Very pop bounce, very boogie. And it could come off the slider or something. It's just that mid-period T-Rex. Even a little bit Quo, if I want to cross over to the UK Connection fave, because my favourite Quo album is Quo as well, by the way. So, you know, I just adore that record. The Quo. Keep your kiss, give us the Quo. Lovely stuff on it from Ginger. You can actually hear him sounding really throaty. He's pushing himself to really belt this lyric, really sing it. He's not doing that kind of affectation that he sometimes does for the Americanism in the voice for a bit of an ironic thing. He's actually belting this as hard as he can. Brain Sugar. Again, it's got a chorus that's just designed for a summer festival. You can imagine it again at Tea in the Park, at Glastonbury or something, where it's gone brain, sugar, honey, brain, sugar. Infectious. More infectious than COVID and the flu put together. It's absolutely fantastic. Pure pop rock. This could have been a radio track. And it really annoys me as somebody who was 15, 16 at the time this album came out, that I wasn't exposed to this album, because this would have just made me go, oh, because we were given the Stereophonics nonsense like that on the radio and told that was rock music. Well, this is fucking rock music. This is rock music. It's going quite well so far. Whatever happened to Rock and Roll
Girls? About it today, right? I don't think that's.
Whatever happened to Rock and Roll Girls? the intro sounds exactly like Framed, the Sab version of Framed, the Alex Harvey Band version of Framed. It's got that. It's more like that than the original by the Coasters. And then insane guitar comes in. Ginger is shredding on it. It's absolutely nuts. He does not get the credit as a lead player that he deserves.
No,
He is absolutely wild on this. Sometimes he gets pigeonholed as being, oh, he's just that kind of quirky guy, you know, bit offbeat, bit daft. If he wanted to, he could have been the lead guitar player in a really solid, straight ahead band. And the playing on this really sells it. It literally breaks down at the end of that track. I loved it. The Whatever Happened to Rock and Roll Girls, that could have been a single. That could have been his smash hit single. There's no reason why it couldn't have been. This is the kind of stuff that the Darkness were praised for doing, but never did because they were a pile of shite. But this is exactly what people thought the Darkness were. Whatever Happened to Rock and Roll Girls is what the Darkness should have been. So again, I'm wishing that I had this when I was 15 or 16. Stephen, you should have given me it back then. You should have found me in the streets. I was hanging about. Monkey Zoo, love it. It's a much more psychedelic mood. So he's going into the 60s here. Rather than Oasis in the 90s were doing the Beatles while Blur were doing the Kinks. At times here in Monkey Zoo, Ginger's doing the Zombies, which I thought was quite interesting, rather than anything else. Just in the vocal delivery, it's a mystery how we keep seeing it through. We just do here at the Monkey Zoo. But it's delivered like a kind of romantic line, as if like we're nuts, but we love each other and we know it. I love that, and it's totally unironic, which is great. Too Many Hippies in the Garden of Love. Again, here comes that thrash drumming again. These headphones, I think, need replaced after this because I've listened to this album a few times with these, and oh my goodness, I don't think I'll have hearing for much longer. It was brilliant. It's a ferocious wall of heavy stuff. Too Many Hippies in the Garden of Love, unfortunately, doesn't have a great lyric to match. I was hoping there would be a good laugh with that, but it's still a really heavy, fun track. Inside Out, bit of an acoustic intro. It goes a bit Wild Horses by the Stones again. It's got that kind of, I was expecting childhood living, but obviously we don't get that. That seems like the Trojan horse track that could have actually got through the post Britpop movement where guitar rock was starting to make a comeback. It could have been a Trojan horse that got Ginger sold, but for whatever reason did it. Inside Out would be my pick as the track that should have been on the radio, definitely. I Want to Be New is heavy as fuck. It is insane. Insane sums up just so much of this album, but Insanely Brilliant sums it up even better in terms of just the sheer attitude and the sheer gall of it all. It's absolutely brilliant. It's groove laden and catchy, so it's not just about how heavy it can play, how fast the drumming is. It's still got a groove, it's still got a vibe, it's still got a feel, it's still danceable. So again, it's perfect for festivals. It's the perfect kind of music that somebody my age at the time should have been given, because this would have had us off our face on ease in the student union or something, and we'd have been having a great time with it. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Church of the Broken Hearted, the melody, believe it or not, to go back to kind of 60s references, goes a bit Air That I Breathe by the Hollies, just the vocal melody for a few seconds every so often. But obviously it's not quite the same as that. Clearly more heavy, but similarly anthemic in a totally different style. And that's an old track when I was doing some homework for the homework assignment that predates even the debut EP by the band, so by the proper, the real band, not this fake band they keep hearing about. So it's a bit of an oldie that was spruced up here, and it's got kind of Strawberry Fields Forever vibes to it. Again, that psychedelia is coming in, so he's mixing 70s, 80s, and now 60s are coming in with the psychedelic. I mean, it literally sounds, "Let me take you down." It's got those parts going on. That so commercial. I could have seen that again on stage at T in the Park, no problem. Organs and choral background give it a much bigger production than anything else on the album. So it's not just about heavy rock, hard rock, and a little bit of psychedelia. There's real production on that track in particular, Church of the Broken Hearted. Take It All, Why Don't You? Is literally an audience sing along, because there's multi-layered vocals to make it seem like a crowd are actually on the track. And they're singing, "Don't you leave me, if you leave me." It's brilliant. He's telling you that this is ready for an audience. And for some reason, the record companies didn't see that the audience would have been there for this. I know that some of these dipped into bonus tracks when I looked it up on YouTube and then looked at the original track listing, because there's the two versions as Stephen showed there. But I have to mention, one of the bonus tracks is a cover of "To Love Somebody" from the Bee Gees' debut album from '67. What I wouldn't give to hear Ginger doing 1st of May by the Bee Gees. That'd be a fun time. When we went out and Christmas Eve was now. That would have been fun. That's nuts, but it's actually really glammed up and fun. It's a good version of "To Love Somebody." And then there's even a cover of Cheap Trick's "He's a Whore," that's kicking about from these sessions as well. And obviously that's from their classic album, the Cheap Trick album, and the kind of chorus on that, where it goes, "Anytime at all," now becomes "Anytime at all." It's just, there's no anytime at all, just becomes "Anytime at all." So that was my refrain. I was like, oh, he's made up a new word here. "Anytime at all, anytime at all." So I really enjoyed it. I just have to say that this album, from start to finish, just it cheered me up, it made me happy, and then it made me melancholy that I wasn't exposed to it early, and then I was happy again because I have now been exposed to it. So Stephen, I want to thank you for exposing yourself to me, but also sharing this album with me as well.
Because this is a family show, so I like to keep it clean.
And families are bad.
Well, everything with Ginger Wildheart is interesting. It's never boring. Never boring. If it's not a phenomenal album, it's all falling about his ears, realistically. And the main question that you've kind of come up with from this album is, well, why doesn't anyone know about it? And the answer to that really is Ginger Wildheart, or as he was back then, Ginger. He was just Ginger on stage. This came out in 2000 in Japan. Okay, and people like me spent a fortune on this because this was the only way to get it. He'd done a couple of things after the Wildhearts had split for the first time. Super Shit 666, which was a kind of mini super group, and then he'd done a project called Clam Abuse. Not necessarily the band title that's going to be super. And that's the point with Ginger, is that whenever you think, oh, he's cracked it, he seems to pull it away. And by the time this came out, I would imagine that most record companies were kind of going,
maybe not seeing the wood for the trees, not looking past. Yeah.
I think probably the best word at that stage was volatile. What you were going to get from Ginger, you didn't know. The Wildhearts live were either the best band you'd ever seen, or will we get to the end of the show? And Endless Nameless, which was the album that at that point kind of closed the story. I mean, there's great songs in there, but you can't hear them because the production is just so off its tits. It's unbelievable. And that has always been, not so much in recent years, but it's never far away. That's been the dichotomy with him. He's a genius, but there's baggage that comes with that. He's an amazing songwriter, but he seems to struggle to hold a band together. And that always kind of comes and goes. So it did eventually, and there's not quite so many versions here as it looks like. This is just a fancy slipcase. This is the UK version that came out in 2001, and that's the main album with a couple of bonus tracks, including the Bee Gees cover that you mentioned. And then you've got, because the people who were going to buy it had already bought it for a lot of money from Japan, they put in a bonus disc, which has got a live show, some acoustic live things, and some extra demos. And you've got a band here that are outstanding. But when you put songs on called things like Walk Like a Motherfucker, you're not going to sell to the masses because the record companies are shitting the brick by this stage. So this is the balance. It's catchy as hell, but it's uncompromising. It's got massive choruses. But is it prog? Is it pop? Is it punk? Is it rock? Yes. Yes, it is. That's what it is. Record company executives are all just kind of going, eh? And he's done this. The reason that I chose is two reasons. One, because some viewers have been kind enough to say, you don't talk about the Wild Hearts enough, Stephen. I know I do, but I don't tend to actually talk about the music.
In depth,
and the drama and all that kind of stuff. And the other reason was that for me, this has set a tone for 75, maybe 80% of what Ginger has done post this album. He's had a solo career. He has a band called Mutation, which is, it's extreme metal, but it's not quite extreme metal. He's done country albums. You name it, he's done it. And most of that can be sourced from this album. And I mean, I saw them live on the tour for this. And by the stage, I always thought that Connie Bloom was on this album, because Connie Bloom from the Electric Boys, I saw him as part of this touring band. And those two just came together like that. It was a dream team, absolute dream team. Two guys that could sing fantastically, two amazing guitarists, two riff monsters who could both play blazing lead solos. It was a marriage made in heaven. But you look at the credits and Connie's not there. But you read anything about the album and his name comes up. I don't quite know how all that falls together, and it's really difficult to piece it together in that kind of way. And there's talk that there is a second album written and has been for but they've never got round to it. But they have toured again together and played on stage again in Ginger Wildheart's band once. They did a tour about 8 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. And this seems to be the thing with Ginger. He's always kind of going, right, this is what I'm doing right now. Well, I wonder what I'll do tomorrow. And it can't settle. It's
restless spirit. Yeah.
And I find him an absolutely fascinating individual. But more importantly, I love his music. And this is one of my favourite albums from him, especially outside the Wild Hearts. So I would love to see it get more notice. It has been reissued. It was reissued in 2005. I don't have that. I think it brings all of these things together. I'm not 100% sure. But now that I've read about that again today, I'm going to have to try and
thinking about it. The cost is real. Pete, ask the question. That's the big question.
So, Davey, would you consider buying this, or would you maybe listen to it online occasionally? I don't think you're going to forget it because it sounded too positive for that.
I love this album more than I love most of my family. So here's the 2005 edition that Stephen doesn't have. This does indeed combine absolutely everything that Stephen mentioned there. He's right. It's got the nut stuff on it. It's got a cover of the EastEnders theme tune, which is a soap opera over here. Prince Charming by Adam and the Ants. And then I Just Called to Say I Love You by Stevie Wonder. But he does it as I Just Called to Say Zimbabwe.
Already then.
So this was I am buying this. No doubt, and anybody watching this who even likes the sound of what we've been discussing, glam, heavy rock, thrash, 60s throwback, psychedelia, just pick it up. Just pick it up. Absolutely sensational stuff. 10 out of 10 with a bullet. Fantastic.
That's a 2 thumbs up. Meanwhile, Simon's going to watch this episode. He's going to be like, Stephen, you gave me a Ginger Wildhearts related album that was absolutely awful, and you gave Davey this 5-star classic.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Scottish Connection, folks.
No, the Ginger album that I gave Simon isn't awful. It's just profane. You just can't say any of the song titles.
And he's a vicar's daughter, so he wouldn't like that kind of stuff.
I can't even say the full name of what you
Yep.
The album that shall not be ever named again on this channel, right? Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yep.
What? Nostradamus?
That's me. All right, Stephen, what were you given as an assignment from Davey?
Well, this is a complete change of pace. Okay, so I'm not going to pronounce this properly. So I was given an album called Afrique Victim or Victim. Pronunciation's already poor. By Mdu. Is it just Mdu?
Mdu Mokhtar.
Mokhtar. That's what that is. Okay, so right, I had never heard of Mdu Mokhtar in my life, but this is his sixth album. Okay, and this was released in May of 2021, so it's really quite recent. I think it's his fifth album. Excuse me. Right, so bit of history here. Okay, so he's traditionally part of the Tuareg ethnic people. Right, this is a nomadic people, and you'll usually find these people based in countries like Libya, Mali, Algeria, and Nigeria. And Mokhtar, as a musician, appears to be based in Niger. Okay, so he uses his Tuareg roots, musical roots, to kind of base everything that's going on here. He sings mostly in a language called Tamashek, okay, which I'd never heard in my life before. And he plays guitar in what I've read as the Takamba and Asuf styles. And it can be described as desert blues. Okay, so I've basically no idea what I'm talking about here. Okay, that's the long and short of this. Okay, so the story is a journey. His story is a real journey. When he was young, his parents disapproved of him even considering playing electric music. That was not the done thing. That's just was not culturally acceptable. So he made a guitar, and the strings were using things like bicycle cables. Okay, so this is a real kind of passion. This was almost like he couldn't not do this. It had to be a thing that he would go and do. So his debut album wasn't properly released at the time. Okay, and it started to get a lot of notice on the cell phone trading scene in Africa. There's a lot of music. Absolutely, Peter. I had no idea that any of this existed. Okay, so people in Africa, I don't know if they still do, but they certainly did trade their music on cell phones. I presume on memory cards and whatever it may be. And he became an underground sensation there. So he teamed up with a label called Sahel Sound or Sale Sound, and they gave his albums a proper release. Okay, and when the label actually phoned him to say that they were interested, it would appear he thought this was a piss take, and he hung up. He thought it was his cousin. One of those classic, oh yeah, I don't think so. Thankfully, they persevered. But by the time that Afrique Victim comes out, we're on Matador Records, okay? And it was released, as you would expect, on CD, on vinyl, and there was a download. But it's also released on a Nokia 6120 cell phone in a nod to this is where it all came from, which is a really nice touch, I have to say. Okay, so I haven't heard anything from before, and he's still singing here in his own language, but there is some French-based lyrics in here too, which Africa has lots of French links over history too. So that's maybe not too much of a surprise. It'd be fair to suggest he's quite disparaging about that side of things. Not that I understand
Colonialism. Yep.
Yeah, any of the lyrics, but the French colonialism gets the bashing it deserves, for want of a better turn of phrase. Okay,
Bloody frogs.
Well, yeah, we weren't any better. So
I was.
Well, you were great. Okay, not that we were alive back then, but anyway. Right. So this is a remarkably organic sounding album in most places. It's a strange journey through it. There's a cleanness to the guitar tone that creates a sound that certainly I can only class as unique. I can't liken him in those terms and the actual sound to anybody else. However, there are moments on the album where you kind of go, oh, where did Eddie Van Halen come in?
Yeah.
It's a strange kind of thing that's happening here. There are moments where you go, wow, they listen to Hendrix in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really unusual mix, I have to say. And it's definitely, it's rock, but it's African ethnic music. It has verses and choruses, but it definitely doesn't. It's really difficult for someone that comes from a much more, and I, as you know, Peter, I listen to lots of prog epics that verse chorus, yeah, we don't need to do that, but there's song structure. You understand the journey. There's a language there. During most of these albums and bands and songs that you think, yeah, I'm along for the ride. I've been listening to this for 40, 45 years. I haven't been listening to this, though, or anything like that at all. So the album seems to have picked up a lot of notice. Okay, so it was on the end of year best of lists for 2021 in the Guardian newspaper here in the UK, the New York Times, Rolling Stone. Funnily enough, there was a certain YouTube channel, Davy's Cinema Flicks and Music Picks.
Number one album.
It was the number one album there.
I am cited on Wikipedia as listing
There you
this
go.
as my
You
number
are
one
cited
album.
as. It's nice to be cited on Wikipedia. My name's there a couple of times too. It's a bit of a thrill, but anyway. So yeah, you cannot well, I can't. Maybe if you're an expert in African music, you can. I can't liken this to anybody else. As I say, there are moments where you think, oh wow, okay, and it's gone. It's not like a song where you think, well, this is lifted this from Diver Down. There are maybe an intro. You think he is channeling Van Halen here. It's a bit bizarre. Not the pop sound, not the rock sound, just the style and the inflection of the playing. It's really unusual. Rhythmically, things are in a different place entirely. The beats are not here to drive the songs along. There's nothing that kind of goes, that is not what this is about. The beats sit below, they flow. Everything moves from the beat. They talk, but they're not necessarily always in sync. It's, as I say, unusual from where I come from. So it opens with a song called, and excuse my pronunciation on all of this, Chismitic. Okay? And it's maybe the most obvious attempt, in my opinion, to kind of UK or USify the sound here. There's a bolder production, okay, and the vocals are maybe more forceful, but they're still filled with subtle kind of African chants. The beat doesn't really do what you expect. There's more distortion here than you'll find in the rest of the album. Most of the album is clean in quite a jarring sense. It's not like someone's just put the distortion off. It really is like, am I listening to a guitar here? You know you are, but are you really? And it really keeps you tuned in that sense. It's difficult to work out the clash of styles. Talia follows that. That's the name of the song. Here we go. Okay, it's much more melodic and it flows in a completely different way. And that was something I found as I went through the album, is that to a novice like me, for a sound like this, there's a real fluidity to the music, but the tracks feel really quite isolated. I found it almost felt like someone had gone and lifted a whole load of different sessions and brought them together as an album. There are 2 or 3 that actually segue into each other. Most of it, though, you kind of think, okay, we're doing this now. Right, we're doing that now. Oh, we've gone back to that sound again. And it is almost like they've kind of maybe got different, and I haven't looked deep enough, as if they've got different musicians, or there's a different producer, or maybe one was done this year, or one was done in that studio. That's probably all wrong. That's just maybe my lack of understanding of what the style is. So Ya Habibti is the one where I would say there's the most obvious Van Halenisms. The phrasing in the intro really kind of screams that. If I hadn't even read anything about Mokhtar, I would have gone, oh wow, okay, that sounds like someone's listened to Eddie Van Halen. It's only 3.5 minutes long, that song, and I must admit that to me, and it is a lot in the style with the way the chants go, it's a bit repetitive. I found it quite difficult to stay on board with that, and that is more one of my hang-ups. That kind of takes me to things like, not style-wise, but structure-wise, something like Ministry. Find something good to play, and then play it, and play it, and play it, and play it, and we'll play it some more. And if you're, just in case you weren't listening, let's finish with that too at the end of the song. And I found that quite jarring. That's just not me more than anything else. So Talat Tanum continues in a similar vein. It's more restrained, it's relaxed in every department, I would say. It's gently insistent, and it's got loads of atmosphere. I think it's probably my favourite song on the album. It's probably the most subtle thing on the album, but I find it quite engaging. I found it quite hypnotic. And I think it comes from the heart. It's got a real heart and soul to the whole song. And I found myself going back to that and probably wanting more of that across the album. So there's an untitled instrumental that comes after that, which is used as a bridge between that song and As Dictate Akal. And we're right back to the style of Ya Habibti. The guitar tone here, it's maybe too sharp for my taste. And the drum fills that almost sounds retro electronic 80s. It's a real mix. Finger on what is going on is very, very difficult. And I mean, we've had these albums to listen to for 3 weeks, something like that. In a little while. I have not got a handle on this yet. That's been honest with you. I have not got a handle on this yet. So next up, we've got Layla. Okay, there's no Derek, there's no Dominoes. This is not a cover. And again, there's a hypnotic guitar sound in a clean style. There's a lilting vocal. It almost sounds a bit like a melodic call to prayer. There's that kind of yearning about it, if that makes sense. It makes you sit up and take notice. You really can't ignore it. And then the title track comes in and it suddenly bursts into gear. And again, it's like we moved in a completely different mood. We're almost back to where the album opener is. It's almost like we're kind of going, yeah, but we could actually get this a lot of notice outside Africa. And it's really interesting. I found that quite jarring. Do you know, that suddenly an accessible groove here that I thought, oh, hold on. I've listened to the last 30 minutes of this and there was none of that happening. None of that. Why? And you start thinking, is the same guy writing these songs? Well, yes, absolutely. And that leaves, here we go, Bismillahi Ataga, I presume. Okay. And that closes the album out. And it same again, the tone and the mood and the sound changes. The beats and the rhythms and the instrumentation is just much more relaxed. It's got much more room to breathe. I found that there's less space, strangely enough. The more relaxed the music, the more incorporated I found that the vocals and the guitar playing came with what was that it was sitting above. The songs that are more to the point, I find from my background that the vocals and the guitar are kind of over here somewhere. And the music's over here somewhere. And they kind of go, and there's 2 or 3 songs out of, I think there's 9, where suddenly you go, and it all comes together. And I actually find them sometimes less satisfying because you think it feels like a compromise. It's almost as if somebody said, back in the day, they would go to bands and go, I don't hear a single, guys. Nobody's asking for a single off this album. Right?
Yeah.
That's not where we're heading. But I do think that somebody's maybe gone, I don't hear the song that will get you some notice outside of Africa. And I'm maybe being really unkind there because this has probably all been made very organically, very honestly. Mokhtar doesn't even like to go into a studio. He likes to get outside and record live with an audience that will just come and join him and start to dance and sing and be involved. He really doesn't like the studio kind of vibe and feel and atmosphere. So my hang-ups, and they're mine, that I bring to this, because it's so, for want of a better turn of phrase, foreign to what we normally listen to, makes me make assumptions that I presume are wrong, which is a complete dichotomy as well. But there you go. That's what the album made me feel at the end of it. And I don't know how many times I've listened to it now, but it's quite a lot. I still feel like I'm kind of left outside, sometimes going, can I get in? Hello, excuse me. You know? And that's not because I can pick fault with any of it. Yet the sound is, same again, from what I'm used to, bare, simple, stripped back, right for the songs. Would I want it any other way? Probably not. Does it get my juices flowing? Sometimes. Will it more in 6 months' time? I really don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. So that is A Freak Victim by Mdou Mokhtar.
How does he spell his name?
MDOU space MOCTAR.
Got him. Okay. Got him. Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
It's a fascinating story, Peter. Fascinating story. And I mean, I've read a little bit and I really need to find out more. I don't yet understand the journey between the first album and the 5th album.
So I'll briefly tell you, Stephen, why I picked this. So first of all, we should both say, as you did with the Wild Hearts, we just ignored whatever we thought the other were like and just suggested something anyway. Yeah. In the spirit of the thing. This, as you said, came out when we were still in lockdown. So I had months of just having this over my head and absorbing it. And I ended up buying it, and it came out from Rough Trade and a signed edition on vinyl.
Beautiful.
To do that,
Yeah.
to do a Simon, there's your lovely gatefold, and then they all are sitting having some scran. And to be a total hit, Stephen liked that there. You don't get many scran references on
No, you
SOT, you know. And look, it even came with a flexi disc.
Oh, see, I'm sold. I'm sold now.
And this is how he appears, folks. If you are wondering, this is how he appears on stage. And this is how the band look on stage. Probably not quite as sepia toned. But the reason I wanted, because some people will be saying, what the hell has he picked this for SOT for? Stephen alluded to it. It's because, it's a Saharan Desert blues album, but from a guy who discovered YouTube in 2006 and suddenly found, he literally said Eddie Van Halen. And to him, he didn't realize it was 50 years old at that point. He thought it was new music. So this is where he was starting to take, and all of a sudden he brought Van Halen to the Saharan Desert. And the next thing he discovered, and you'll hear this in the guitar playing, is Prince. The next thing I went to was Purple Rain. And he started playing Prince stuff. And he's literally covered the whole of Purple Rain, turning it into that language, which is just insane. They don't even have a word for purple. So the album translates as the rain that wasn't quite red. I'm not joking. His live stuff is sensational. He has a policy of, when you go to his shows, he says, don't come if you're a world music fan. I want rock fans to come to the shows. He wants band t-shirts. He specifically says, if I see people in the front row with polo shirts, I'm not going to be on form. I want to see Dio t-shirts, Metallica t-shirts, Van Halen. So he is a rocker who is refusing to put away his African roots. He could very easily say, no, do you know what? I'm going to sell out. I'm going to start a power trio as you're doing this month, Pete, for example. Plug for every day of the month on SOT. But he's not. He's saying, no, these are my people and I'm not leaving that behind. But fuck it, I'm going to play some Eddie Van Halen on top of it. So that's where the SOT link comes in. So it's a little bit off the beaten path, but sometimes it's good to challenge yourself and say, this is really different. I wonder where it's going to take me. So that's one reason that I just wanted to pick it for SOT, just to diversify a little bit. But then Van Halen brings it right back into this kind of stratosphere. So yeah. That's why.
Cool. Well, the question, Stephen.
Yep.
Would you consider buying this? Would it be something you continue to listen to online, or would you forget all about it after today?
Well, it's interesting, just quickly, on what Davey said there, is it never crossed my mind that this wasn't SOT friendly when I listened to it.
That's interesting.
In that sense. That never even crossed my mind. Right now, where I am, is I would probably love to see him live. I think that would be a completely and utterly different experience. I found this, personally, to be a little too dense for me to completely get on board with. I will probably try. I'll probably go and listen to earlier stuff and see if I can understand the journey better. So I will stream this. It's a cool looking album too, and there's a flexi disc.
Yeah.
So I would like to be.
How good is that?
Look at it, it's great. I would like to be telling you that I would want to buy it, but the honest truth is that I'm not there yet. So stream it is where I'm at. I'm going to continue to listen to it though. It's been a fantastic journey to listen to something I really had no idea existed.
Speaking of journey, Neil Sean's another one that you cited as somebody who likes to play like. So I mean, he is wanting to be an American rocker, but just refusing to leave his band and his roots behind. And I just love that dichotomy. Yeah. So long may it continue. And you mentioned seeing him live. Hands up if you had tickets to see him live and caught COVID 3 days before. Oops. Yeah. But there we go.
So we got
Oh,
one
thank you.
thumbs up already purchased. The other one's it's somewhere in the middle, going to continue to experiment. And
It's about there.
almost there, right?
Well,
Yeah.
The more he looks at that vinyl,
Yeah.
the cover of that vinyl, he's like,
I think it was the Flexi that really sold him there,
It was
wasn't it?
actually, yeah, I'm a sucker for this kind of thing.
Look at that. I tell you, it makes a lovely fan as well. So, oh.
Multi-purpose. Multi-purpose. There you go. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. So I guess your homework is to go and investigate these two releases if you haven't heard of them before. And we'll have both Davey and Stephen put the titles in the comments section below so people can go look them up a little bit easier. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together.
All the damn time.
For Davy Gallagher and Stephen Reid, our two Scotsmen in honor here today. Thanks for watching this episode
And I
of
would
Homework
walk
Assignment.
500 miles, and I would walk 500 more. Da, 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 da.
Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on Hudson Valley Squares. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.